So after last week's decent but strangely out of place episode, The Last of Us returns to the adventures of Joel and Ellie this week. And hopefully it stays that way. I'm not one for wasting time, especially during a limited series. But in this episode, I already saw seeds being planted for yet another one-off episode. And I really hope that I'm wrong about that. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
This week's episode kind of returns to the formula that made those first two episodes so great. That being giving us enough recognizable things from the game to make things feel familiar, while also adding new layers that will hopefully enhance the experience in a new format.
That makes sense.
A good portion of this fourth episode is just Joel and Ellie traveling and kind of bonding with each other. We see the banter start to pick up between them the more time they spend with each other. Throughout the episode, you see Ellie kind of using these dad jokes to break the tension between them. And it sounds stupid, but every time she says one, you can see Joel's hard exterior starting to crack.
You're crazy, Dad.
It's been a gradual process of having him warm up to her. Although I have to be honest, I'm still not sure if I'm warming up to her as a viewer. My biggest criticism of this show through the first two episodes was Ellie. Either that she's been miscast or is being completely misrepresented. Truthfully, you do see flashes of that Ellie character from the game, that charming character that gamers were drawn to, but in the show, a lot of times she just comes off as both obnoxious and unlikable.
No. Don't like that.
And I don't ever remember feeling that way towards this character when playing the game. And sometimes when she speaks, it feels like they're just trying way too hard to make her sound witty. And that's the sort of thing that should come naturally if it's being done well. They did do the gay porno mag scene from the game, so I guess now everyone can rest easy.
All I can tell you, sir, is that he's gay.
So Ellie and Joel eventually find their way to KC, where yes, they encounter a trap set by the KC Raiders. A shootout ensues, which again feels like it was ripped right out of the game, right down to the part where Joel tells Ellie to hide in a hole in the wall, and then Ellie even saves Joel when he is pinned down by one of their attackers. And this to me was a pivotal moment in this episode, because after Joel doesn't hesitate to kill off the attacker who is now begging for his life.
If he dies, he dies.
He actually apologizes to Ellie for putting her in that situation. He feels guilty. Because in his words, she's a kid and she shouldn't have to go through something like that. Considering he started this episode referring to her as nothing more than cargo, you can definitely start to see that Joel really isn't the character that he appears to be on the outside. He actually does care what happens to Ellie. This has moved past the point of just being pure obligation for him. He further shows this when he allows her to keep the gun. It shows that he trusts her a bit more now, and he knows that she'll be safer with it. I like how they are showing us the progression of their relationship, rather than just taking the easy way out and just telling us that things are different.
Put some effort into it!
Unfortunately, their run-in with these raiders is going to cause an even bigger problem for them moving forward. Because this is where we are introduced to the very intense leader of this faction, Kathleen, who is not only obsessed with finding someone named Henry, but now she's out for blood and she wants the person responsible for killing these two men.
Revenge.
Kathleen is an original character to the series, which I don't really have a problem with. I actually think that adding a leader character to this group makes a lot of sense. It kind of helps to give this group a bit more purpose and a bit more motivation, rather than just kind of being faceless villains. But it just so happens that their goals are intersecting with the goals of Joel and Ellie. And that's how this conflict is created. I think Kathleen seems like an intriguing enough character, even if all she's really contributed up until this point is a little RBF.
You want to take the credit, you go right ahead.
My only concern is that they might waste another one-off episode explaining who she is and what's the deal with this whole Henry situation. And I honestly don't think that that's a good idea. It would be fine if they revealed things about her gradually throughout the remaining episodes, but I beg you, please do not leave the Joel and Ellie story for yet another episode. Meanwhile, as this KC faction is scouring the city looking for their members' killers, Joel and Ellie are trying to evade them, and they end up camping out in this old building. And Joel spreads glass out all around them so he can hear when someone's sneaking up on them.
Glass? Who gives a shit about glass?
Before they sleep, there's a bit more bonding, where Ellie reveals to Joel that she noticed that he doesn't hear so good out of his right side. She is perceptive, if nothing else. And she delivers one final corny joke that gets Joel to crack and he starts laughing. It's pretty much the first time we've seen him show any kind of emotions outside of sadness or anger. Restoring Joel's humanity, one joke at a time.
Had you ever heard of the healing power of laughter?
This episode ends with Joel and Ellie waking up being held at gunpoint by two unknown characters, leaving us with a cliffhanger to set up next week's episode. Overall, I have to admit, with a few gripes aside, and a little bit of apprehension about the future of this show, knowing where it's heading, that The Last of Us Episode 4 on its own was largely enjoyable to me. A welcome return of the characters that are the reason that I started watching this show and got interested in this story in the first place. If they continue to demonstrate a willingness to keep fans of the game happy, while also trying new things that work, hopefully, to make this show different enough to justify its existence, because I don't know about anybody else, but I do not want a shot-for-shot remake of the game either. If all that happens, I think The Last of Us could be one of the best video game adaptations we've ever had. Not that it's had much competition up until this point.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.